off. And All right, g'day everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Spark Your Fire. We have one of our returning guests, I should say, Andrew Nguyen from Aurora Estate Agents. Mate, how are you, Andrew? Good to see you.
Good, David. Pleasure to be back. How long has it actually been since we've spoken on the podcast?
I reckon it could be almost about a year, I'd say. We've had to push back a little bit, because I guess there hasn't been much of a movement in the Melbourne market. But now I think
Mm.
it is starting to show green shoots, and it makes sense to bring you back on just to do a bit of myth busting, mate. Because I'm obviously not there on ground, but all I'm hearing is Melbourne's heating up, Melbourne's heating up. But is it heating up crazy? Is it warm? Is it cold? Is it super hot? Want the underground eyes expert like you to tell us. That's why.
Yeah, no, pleasure. Absolute pleasure to be back, mate. Always happy to have a chat to you.
Likewise. Good to see you.
Yeah, so I mean, we're starting to see some shoots, like you said, in the Melbourne market. It sort of reminds me of just before the COVID boom that we had.
Okay.
We started seeing a lot of investors, particularly from Sydney and Brisbane, come
Mm.
down and purchase. And I think that's because their markets had peaked. And we know Brisbane's just had a crazy, crazy run, right? Such as some other markets as well.
Yeah.
So we're starting to see some investors come down. In fact, I think the last 4 out of 5 of my sales have been from buyers agents representing buyers from Sydnay.
Yeah.
So we're getting that, and obviously with the couple of interest rate cuts that we've had, that's been very, very beneficial to the market as well. So I suspect if we get the one that we're meant to get, that we were meant to get last month, that we get this month, we're probably going to see some better growth in Melbourne. And it's been a long time coming, mate. Like it's been what, almost 5 years now.
Mm.
So for a market that booms, once every 18 to 24 months, we are well overdue. So
Well behind.
when it comes, I think we're going to be in for a pretty good ride.
That's right. Yeah, I think that's what everyone's expectation is at the moment. And don't forget, Melbourne's median price at the moment is way below Brisbane, Adelaide, and Perth, as a matter of fact. So, generally speaking, you guys have always been the second one straight after Sydney. That just shows how much more catch up there is need to be done. And yeah, so I'm surprised to hear that. I gotta say, so how long has it been since it's been stagnant? About 5 years, is that right?
It's been about 4 and a half, 5 years.
Jesus, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the boom. I mean, it's been so long ago now, but I'm pretty sure the boom in Melbourne ended April 2021.
Mm,
It was either April 22 or 21, but I'm pretty sure it's April 2021.
yep,
So if it has been April 2021, then it's been almost 5 years,
that's
like
right.
4 and a half, 5 years. Insane.
Yeah. Okay, so tell
Yeah.
us what are you currently seeing at open homes? Like, obviously, you've been saying that buyers agents are the ones that's representing the Eastern Seaboard property investors. Are
Mm.
you seeing that they're coming through with strong offers? Are they coming through with unconditional offers, or are they just kind of testing the waters at the moment?
No, they're coming in strong. Like the numbers that we're seeing at our opens aren't as strong as what they were in 2021.
Mm,
But those buyers agents who are representing their buyers from the Eastern Seaboard, they're coming in strong. Like we listed a property in Narre Warren South, which is about 50 kilometers southeast of the CBD.
yeah.
We listed that for 630 to 693, and we sold it for 740
Wow.
to a
Okay.
Sydney investor. And we haven't seen that. Like we haven't seen sale prices go over the range, the asking price like that for a long time.
Mm.
And like I said, it's happened to the last 4 or 5 of my properties. I've just launched another couple of properties today, and we're immediately we're getting inquiries from buy agents, and I haven't spoken to a buyer's agent for like 3 or 4 years.
Mm.
So all of a sudden they're coming. So those types of signs are really starting to point towards a really good Melbourne market. Whether it happens in the spring, like whether it starts to lift off in the spring,
Yep.
is yet to be seen. But definitely 2026, if the trajectory continues, we're going to see a pretty good Melbourne market.
Yeah, yeah, okay. And are you seeing multiple offer type of situation as well? So, they're coming in, you kind of like, yeah, for example, that property that you listed 630 to 690, which ended up selling for 740, how many offers have you received?
For that one, we had 78 groups in one weekend
Wow,
and
78.
14 offers.
78 groups,
Insane,
2 offers. Jesus Christ. Wow.
insane. So anything that's listed below your 800
Yeah.
is literally flying out the window.
Yeah.
Um, we've had trouble out this way for a few years now with properties over 1 million, but we're starting to see days on market reduce for that as well. I can't speak for the western suburbs of Melbourne, but the southeast activity is definitely picking up. Properties that we've had trouble selling previously are taking a lot less time,
Yeah.
and we're getting more inquiry. So, look, yeah, people will make their choices where they want to buy, whether it's Melbourne or Sydney or Brisbane or whatever, right? But with Melbourne, we've been waiting for a long time, and that's probably due to a number of things. Probably due to the regulatory environment as well. Like,
Mm.
there's been so many changes to the Residential Tenancies Act that it's been really, really hard to actually invest in Victoria, or made it harder for investors to invest. And then also increases in taxes too. Like, land tax has increased phenomenally.
That's right.
They're now talking about they're now talking about introducing a tax on sellers. Like, if you sell your property, there's going to be a tax on that. They're talking about things like that. So no wonder why investors have been really, really nervous to dip their toes in Victoria. If
Yeah.
anything, Victorian investors have been leaving,
Yes.
and they're only coming back now because prices everywhere else is too prohibitive.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem, right? Because everyone else, like, yeah, as you said, everywhere else in Australia is pretty much seeing a silly type of prices, where Melbourne is still kind of affordable in that sense. But
Mm.
yeah, as you mentioned, I think, that land taxes, as well as any kind of proposed tax that's coming on, or that's yet to come on, is going to have another big whammy again on
Yeah.
on investors. So we'll probably leave that. I want to dig in a little bit more in terms of the sales market before we move on to the property management and obviously the legislation side of things, which I know you're also an expert
Mm.
on, which is great. But yeah, like, are you seeing I know we're not officially, when we're recording this, we're kind of in early August at the moment. We're not officially in the spring selling season yet. Are you seeing
Mm.
that people are preparing even before spring selling season this year to try to bring their property on the market early, in terms of avoiding that competition? Are you starting to see a bit of that trend, or are they kind of like, yeah, let's wait for a couple more interest rates to drop so that way we can actually get a higher price?
Mm. Mm. Well, generally speaking, David, most vendors, if they're looking at selling, will try and wait for spring,
Okay.
right? And it depends on the agent you're working with. Like, if you were to ask me, if you came to me and said, Andrew, when's the best time to sell? I will always tell you it's before spring, because the last thing that I would want for you is to be in competition with everybody else that's on the market
Correct.
at the same time.
That's
And
right.
as a result, that increases reduces the demand and increases the supply, right? So for most of our vendors, even if they've got renters in there, we've been telling them to put on the market now,
Hmm. Hmm.
as opposed to wait for, by the time you get to October, November, there's going to be so much stock on the market.
Yep.
And particularly for this market, when vendors are knowing that there is perhaps a chance that the market's going to boom,
Yes.
there's going to be more of them waiting. So, as with any boom, there's always a little bit of a plateau. Um, you know, when all that stock sells before we start having the true boom. So, I say we have the true boom. So, usually a boom lasts for about 18 months. The true boom is about 9 months into when we start seeing those shoots grow.
I
So
get.
that's why I'm suspecting, if we're saying that the shoots have started to grow now in,
Yep.
in July, August, we're probably not going to see the true boom until sometime about March or April next year, because all that stock in spring's going to have to sell before we start getting a reduction in supply.
Yep.
And then that's when we're going to start to see prices go, whoa, like, we're going to start going, wow, oh my God, I can't believe it's up for that much.
Mm, mm. But
Mm.
even, yeah, even with what you're saying at the moment, I mean, the competition is being very strong. There's a lot of demand. There's very little supply in terms of good
Yeah.
qualities, right? Which means basically it's already pushing up prices, in terms of that vendor expectation, right now, right? So,
But that's the thing. That because people are putting their properties on the market now, there's no
yep,
supply. But
yep,
if you wait, that's going to plateau when all these properties go on the market. Like, I know, like, I could have more vendors on my two hands that I can count that are waiting for spring, because they're under that presumption that it's always better time to sell in spring because the sun's out, buyers are willing to come out and go to their opens. But if you're a buyer and you want a home, you're going to go out, rain, hail, or shine.
that's right.
So it's going to be a better market for a buyer to wait for spring. Just wait another couple of months, And I think there's going to be some better bargains out there. Not bargains, but you're going to have less competition amongst other buyers. But if you're shopping now, like and you got a home under 800,000, it's priced right. You got 70, 80 people going through it.
That's crazy, yeah.
So now's the time. Right now, if you're looking to cash in right now, or you wait until next year.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Which is it's pretty nice, I've got to say. Are you seeing that's the current pattern for all the properties kind of around the Berwick, the Narre Warren type of area, getting through about 70, 80 groups through the first open and double digit offers over the first weekend?
If it's priced right. If
Okay.
it's priced right.
Okay. So
And what
800,
I mean is,
yeah.
sorry, go on.
So 800K is kind of like the borderline. Essentially anything that's sub 800 are the ones that's where the most of the competition currently are. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. If you've got a listing at sub 800, you can pretty much count your dollars that it will sell in the first week. It was
Wow.
priced right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And that's, I'm even comparing to last year. You'd be waiting, even if it was priced right, probably 3 to 4 weeks to sell.
Yep, that's definitely.
So there's definitely a positive trajectory in the market. Now it's just all about timing.
Yep.
Yeah,
Very good. Okay, well there you go for all the owners that's out there. I guess looking at capitalizing a good growth now will be the good time to put the properties on the market rather than waiting till spring. Because yeah, that's. Are you expecting a lot of properties to come up this spring?
yeah, yeah. No doubt.
You're
It'll
already
be it'll
seeing.
be our busiest spring
Yeah.
for a few years. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like, you know, it'll be our busiest spring in terms of stock. Like we've had stock in the past, and we might have low stock and it'll sell, but
Yep.
this year will be a lot of stock, a lot of opens, meeting a lot of buyers.
Yep.
It will probably be a spring that a lot of agents who've entered the industry since 2021 haven't experienced.
Wow. Okay. There you go. Should be a good time. Should be a good time. It
Mm.
also means buyer will have more options though, isn't it? So I guess for property
Yeah,
investors, probably better off to wait until kind of that spring selling season. They have a lot more property to choose from, but at the same time, potentially more competition as well. Who knows?
yeah, yeah.
Fair
Good
enough.
time to hit.
That's true. That's true. It's good to see you smiling, Andrew. I think that's definitely a good indicator in terms of what's upcoming in the market, given the fact that it's been subdued for so long. So yeah, I think happy days ahead.
Got to keep smiling, mate. Got to keep smiling. Really, real estate, even if you're not an agency owner, but you're an investor, it's a roller coaster ride. It's like watching the stock market every day. It just goes up and down, up and down, up and down. If you
There's
can't
always
smile, then don't invest.
it's always something that you get yourself up and down all the time, right? So,
Yeah.
okay, talk to us about property management side of things, which is the other arm of your business. What are you seeing at the moment? Are you seeing there's an increase in terms of property that's for rent, or are you seeing that investors are starting to get out of that market again?
Generally speaking, throughout my travels and having spoken to quite a number of agency owners across Victoria,
Yeah.
rent roll growth is stagnant.
Okay.
And that's because investors are leaving Victoria. Based on the last numbers provided by the Residential Bonds Authority of Victoria. So from June 24 to June 25, well, actually it was May 24 to May 25, 25,000 homes have left the Victorian rental
Wow.
supply chain.
Okay. Yeah, right.
That's massive.
That's
That's
massive, yeah.
that's 25,000 families who no longer have an
Correct.
option to rent. And then that's not including net migration, right? So you got net migration to that too. So 25,000 homes taken off the rental supply chain in Victoria is absolutely massive. And that's due to, like I said before, an increase in regulation,
Mm,
massive increase in regulation and compliance, and also an increase in tax, particularly land tax.
yes.
And Victorian investors are leaving in droves, unfortunately.
But are you seeing, I guess, with buyers agents coming back and buying on behalf of Eastern Seaboard investors, do you anticipate that numbers to start catching up again?
I hope so. I
Yeah.
really do hope so. But that's yet to see. We're yet to see that.
Okay.
Like our rent roll in itself has been stagnant for about 3 years. Like we've
Right.
been on the same number. The same number of landlords or residential providers who've signed up to us equate to the same number who've left because they've either sold their properties or they're moving into them.
Yeah.
So, look, I hope there is more confidence in investors around Australia to invest in Victoria. But with the upcoming changes again in November, and then again in 2027, and they're not laying off land tax, it's hard for me to see. It's hard for me to see. Even if there is a small growth, there's no way we're going to catch up to that 25,000 that we've lost.
But doesn't that translate to a upward force in terms of the rent that people should be paying as a landlord from a landlord perspective? So their expected gross rental yield should be going up then in that case.
Rents have been going up. Rents have been going up. That's one positive thing
Yep.
for an investor in Victoria. But unfortunately, whatever rent that has that they've had to that whatever rent that they've received over the last 3 years has been eaten up by compliance costs and tax.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So it ends up being balancing out. It's not like, somehow Victoria is a haven for investments because your rents have gone up. Yeah, of course they've gone up. But, you know, our rent increases over the last 3 years have gone up anywhere between 20 to 50 to $100 a week. But even let's just say for argument's sake, it's gone up by $100 a week. That's 5,200 a year, right? You've got your compliance costs, you've got your land tax, you've got increase in maintenance costs. Agencies have had to increase their fees because costs have gone up. All gets eaten away. It
Mm,
all gets eaten away. So if you're investing in Melbourne for capital growth or Victoria for capital growth, and it's a long-term hold for the next 20 years, then sure, go for it because the Victorian market always goes up, as with any other market in Australia. But if you're looking for cash flow, Victoria is not your destination.
yeah. So you don't see that improving, unfortunately, just because of all that compliance cost, just because of that increased land taxes. So, even though on paper the rent has gone up, but the actual dollar that's ending up in the property investor's pocket remained the same, pretty much.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
okay. That's not good. That's not a very good incentive in terms of getting more property investors into that market.
It's
Um,
not.
hmm,
It's not. I mean, I understand why the government did that, but I don't think they've achieved their goal. Like they've done that to try and reduce the amount of investors in Victoria to increase the supply for people who are renting or people who are trying to buy their first home to get into a home purchase,
that's right. Yeah.
right? But there's a couple of problems with that. One is it doesn't deal with the issue of net migration. When you're not building more homes, you don't counter the issue of net migration. And secondly, a lot of renters, they rent because although they might be able to afford a mortgage, they don't have a deposit.
Correct.
So you might release more homes onto the purchase market because investors are leaving, but renters can't buy it anyway because they don't have a deposit. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's the reality
That's
of buying a home is you need a deposit. You buy a $800,000 home, which is generally what the cost of the first a home is in the southeastern suburbs. 5% is still 40K. It's still a lot of money. So, whatever the government's trying to achieve here in Victoria, it's definitely not working. It's definitely
right.
not working, and it's driving people away. It's driving investment away, and at the end of the day, the people that are affected are business owners and people who want to invest safely in property.
I think it's yeah, definitely from a numbers perspective, like especially from a yield perspective, doesn't make sense. And I think, but I guess talking to my clients or Eastern Seaboard investors who's looking at getting into Melbourne, they understand they're going to take that cash flow hit, but ultimately they're going to get the cream on the top, which is a capital growth. So that
Capital,
capital
yep.
growth is that expectation to say, sure, I'm happy to suffer, in the meantime for that poor cash flow, but ultimately we want to see some good growth and catching up.
Mm,
And
mm.
I think as you said, Victoria still or Melbourne still has that great opportunity for catching up in terms of prices on that. So that's what's really driving the property investors at the moment. But from
Yeah.
a cash flow perspective, I don't think it's one of the reasons that I guess with interest rate coming down, it's just going to make it easier and easier to hold onto properties in Melbourne, and that's one of the reasons why the Melbourne properties are making more sense now in from a property investment perspective. A few more rate cuts, I think you'll have a bit more interest again.
Mm.
Again, how low will we go? We don't know. But walk us through in terms of a couple of, I guess, things that you're aware of that's upcoming from a property management perspective or changes that property investors should be aware of that's upcoming.
Yeah, David. So a couple of things. One of the first of them is the Victorian government's introduced a further set of minimum standards for properties. So formerly there were 14 minimum standards.
Mhm.
There's now 19 minimum standards. One of them will come into effect in December of this year.
Mhm.
A small one, and not as expensive for owners, is to ensure that all your window coverings have a corded anchor to them.
Okay.
And then 2027 is when the big costly minimum standards will come in. So all houses will have to have some form of cooling. There have to be energy efficient shower heads, hot water systems, air conditioning units. Houses will have to be insulated. Will have to be drought proof. They're going to be costly. They're
That's
definitely going to be costly.
definitely.
Um, and in introducing those changes, it's added an extra layer of compliance costs too. So property managers will no longer be able to, with their own eyes, determine whether a property meets minimum standards. We're going to have to outsource that to
Mhm.
companies who are going to be charging landlords, $200-300 a pop to get that done. So
Oh,
there's another compliance cost on top of that. The second one is the changes to the Residential Tenancies Act. So they're increasing the number of days notice that we have to give renters for rent increases and notices to vacates.
okay.
They're removing certain notices to vacate. So unlike other states where you have the ability as an owner to terminate a lease on the basis that the contract is ending, like that's normal contract law, right? That's pretty obvious. In Victoria, an owner will no longer be able to evict or terminate a renter or rental agreement at the end of a fixed term lease.
Really?
So it would, yeah, so it would just carry over into a month-to-month lease on a periodic basis,
Yep.
and that right is gone. So the only way that you would be able to evict a renter is if you're selling,
Yep.
you're moving into it, or they fall into arrears. But even then, even if you issue the notice, it doesn't mean that they're going to vacate. They can still fight it at VCAT, and Victoria is the only state in Australia that mandates that an owner has to argue at the tribunal that it is reasonable and proportionate to obtain their property back from a renter.
Oh my God.
Um,
Wow.
and a bunch of other things too. Things like you can no longer um, accept offers of higher rent or offers of more rent payment in advance. So, for example, if you came to me in Melbourne, like at the moment in Melbourne, if you saw my rental and you really like the home at $600 a week, you could say, Andrew, look, I want to get my foot in the door. I want to offer you 6 months rent up front because I'm cashed up.
Mhm.
And I want to offer you $650 a week. So at the moment, that's perfectly legal. A real estate agent can take that offer.
Yep.
They're now shortcutting that, so no longer will agents be able to take those offers. So it's a
Really?
level playing field for every renter. Renters can no longer make offers that are better than the advertised price.
Wow.
um, yeah, so a bunch of those. The third tranche, which they're talking about, which hasn't been introduced yet, will include things like the portable bond scheme, which I think in New South Wales has kicked off.
Mhm.
So it'd be interesting to see how that works in New South Wales. Stopping owners from making dubious bond claims. I don't know what that even means, but there'll be some sort of scheme or penalty whereby if an owner makes a dubious bond claim, then there'll be some fine. So it's very tenant heavy. So the really important phase of an investor is to ensure that they get the right renter, because if it all goes wrong, it's going to be very, very hard to remove them.
You literally can't evict them just because you don't like them by the end of the lease. You have to, like you said, it's the first I've heard that you actually had to take it to the tribunal to try to kick someone out of the property that you own. It is ridiculous, I have to say, Andrew. This is like taking it to the other extreme. I don't think any of the states in Australia has done that before. Victoria is definitely the first, from what I hear.
Yeah, Victoria's the first. I have read the legislation in New South Wales and Queensland. Um, there are there are there are avenues available for renters to dispute a termination notice, what you
Yes.
pull up there, on the basis that it's retaliatory.
Yes.
But in Victoria, you have that, but you also have reasonable and proportionate. So, owner, why is it reasonable and proportionate for the tribunal to give you possession of your property? Like that's insane. Like, that essentially they're taking away an owner's right to their own property,
Correct.
and that it's absolutely mind blowing. But that's the reason why the Victorian property market, in terms of property management, is so litigious at the moment. Like renters know their rights. They know that if they get a termination notice, they don't have to leave. They'll just file a VCAT, and chances are they'll get to stay, unless they've massively breached the rental agreement. So that's why it's been so hard to encourage investors to come to Victoria. Like,
Yeah.
why would you? Why would you invest?
Correct. That's right. Yeah, I can see why there's so much headwinds now in terms of not just the political game side of things, but also the property management aspect of things. It's you would thought that one of the key aspects of being able to do, I guess, property invest in property is that you do have that full ownership and that full control in terms of what you want to
Mm,
do to the property. And part of that includes be able to evict or kick out the tenant if they are not behaving or if they're not the right fit. But it sounds like no,
yeah,
like someone can just pretty much go rogue and just go, Andrew, I'm staying in this property. I'm not leaving anywhere. So take me to
yeah, yeah,
tribunal, and then we will see.
precisely. Precisely. Like, I'll give you an example, right? Like we were helping a client, an agency with a case. The owner wanted to sell the property, um, and part of the reason was because the renter didn't look after it. It was completely trashed.
Yeah.
She stopped paying her rent, so it was like January 2024. The owner had issued her a notice saying, "I'm selling the property. Can you
Yeah.
please leave so I can sell it?"
Yeah.
Stop paying her rent, damaged the property. We didn't get possession for that property until March 2025.
Oh my God. Wow.
So the agency had gone to VCAT a number of times, where the paperwork was incorrect. Like we're not talking like substantial errors here. We're talking minor
I know.
clerical errors,
Mhm.
right? So in New South Wales, you have Section 99, which basically says if there's a defective notice, then the tribunal can carry on as though it's a valid notice if the renter can understand what the notice is for, right? Victoria, we don't have that. If there's one thing missing, that's it. You get sent back home. You start the whole process again, another 60 days. So this process kept dragging on and on and on. They then engaged us as their representative in tribunal, and we got possession in March. So the owner by that point in time was owed about 13 months in rent,
Jeez.
went into a property that was completely trashed, had to fix it up and then sell it. But that's the problems that's the Victorian government has caused now in this state, and that's why it's driving people away. It's insane. Like that example was not an extreme example. It is happening across the state.
Yeah. 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 Gosh, that's something that's definitely needs to be alerted by I guess people getting into the Melbourne property market. Because yeah, it is a statewide implication, as you said. So yeah. Mm. Any
Mm.
other things that we should be mindful of, Andrew, apart from the fact that what you have just told us? Any other ones that's upcoming that property investors should be mindful of?
No, no. Look, I mean, I don't want to disincentivize people from investing in Victoria, right? But
Yeah,
I think people just need to be educated and know the risks that are involved in buying an investment property in Victoria.
absolutely.
So get a good property manager that knows their stuff, and get good insurance in case something goes wrong, and know your numbers. Like you're probably better than me at advising people about knowing their numbers, right? Like you talk about cash flow, like or capital growth. Like people, go, yeah, I'm gonna buy this property and I'm not going to sell it for another 20 years. And literally 2 or 3 years into the investment, they realize they can't pay for all their costs and then have to sell it. So there's no point if you don't
Correct.
know your numbers and
Yes.
you don't know that. Look, if there's an interest rate rise of one point, or if there's increased compliance costs, that I can still hold on to the property and still be able to maintain my own lifestyle. If you can't do that, then don't invest,
Yes.
particularly in Victoria, because taxes are going up all the time, compliance costs are going up all the time. So you need to factor that into your future, your future costings to ensure that if it goes up by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%, then you can still hold it. Because where I've been helping property owners sell properties they bought in 2021, and some of them are selling for less than what they bought it for,
Mm. Mm. Yeah, no,
right?
absolutely. 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 That's a really good point, Andrew. It's a really good point.
Mm.
No, thank you for sharing today. That's a lot of information to be taking on. A lot of them that I just obviously first heard myself as well. But yeah, it's a shame that Melbourne property markets, or in terms of the property management agency side of things, has changed so much since I last looked into this kind of area. But yeah, hopefully it will change. You never know. I know you've been
It
battling
won't.
hard.
No
I know you've
hope,
been
mate. It's
battling
not
hard,
going to
Andrew.
change.
Come on, everything's gonna have to take turns, right? So, come up it goes, down it goes. Right now, I can see it's probably at the pretty much at the bottom end of that property management side of things. Things can only get better, I would assume, Andrew. That's a question mark.
No, David, your optimism, that's Sydney optimism for you, not Melbourne optimism. So I think there are massive political problems. I mean, not right for this podcast right now, but I think there's massive political problems for change
I see.
in relation to the space. I think it's going to get worse, and when someone else gets elected, there won't be enough political courage, so to speak, to change it. So
Okay.
that would be the way things are.
Few
Yeah,
more years of hurt to come, I guess. So everyone be prepared is what we're saying here. All right.
yeah.
Thanks, Andrew. That's a lot of information. I guess how do people reach out to you if they got more questions?
Yeah, sure. Definitely feel free to give me a call. My number's 0411 735 776. Always happy to have a chat. Or
Mhm.
you can just shoot me an email at info@Aurora, that's AURORA, estateagents.com.au.
Awesome. Lovely. So yeah, Andrew, obviously his agency not only handles property management, but also helps with sales as well. So if any of our listeners who's got wanting a good property manager who knows their stuff, especially given that the Victorian property management agency is in such of a shambles at the moment, you definitely want a good property
Mm.
manager on your side. And yeah, if anyone's looking to sell their home for a good price, Andrew will be the person to look for to speak to, I would say. So
Thank you, David, and always pleasure to have a chat to you. And best of luck with your pending newborn.
thank you.
I
Thanks,
look forward to
Andrew.
seeing some photos and sharing some stories when we next meet.
Well, absolutely will, mate. Absolutely will. Thanks for coming on again, and yeah, we'll chat to you in a couple months' time.
Thanks, mate. Thanks,
All right,
David.
mate.
Goodbye.
See you then.